All right, welcome everyone to today's event. We're so happy to have everyone here. I know we have a big crowd today, so it seems like this is probably a pretty popular topic. Lots of people looking for ways to make money on the side, legitimate professional ways to make money on the side, I should say. My name is Bree Reynolds, and I'm the Senior Career Specialist at FlexJobs, and I'll be leading today's event. Our goal today is essentially to equip you with a lot of really useful information to help you find a professional level side job, some way to make money on the side. And I'm just going to go ahead and show my screen here so that everybody can see what's going on. Thank you, Jen, for the heads up. I have my colleague, Jen Blaze, is on the back end of the system, just helping out with everything. So you may get answers from her as well if you're asking questions. But again, we're really excited to have you here today, and we're going to talk a lot about how to find legitimate professional jobs to make money on the side. And let's go ahead and get started. So first, I just want to go over the topics that we're going to be covering today. A little bit of housekeeping. The event is going to last about 60 minutes, so we'll go until 2 p.m. Eastern. And that's going to be about 40 minutes or so of information that I'm going to throw at you rapid fire. So feel free to take notes, but also know that yes, this webinar is being recorded. So if you want to review the information, you can always go back to it on the recording, which we'll make available for you about 24 hours from now. We'll be sending you a link with to be able to view that recording as much as you would like. The last 15 or 20 minutes or so of the event are going to be opened up to audience Q&A. So as you have questions, please feel free to put them in the GoToWebinar control panel in the questions area. If you don't see your control panel, look around your screen for a little orange arrow, and if you click the orange arrow, the control panel should magically appear. It likes to hide itself every now and then. And so you can ask questions throughout the event, and we'll be trying to answer as many questions as we can in those last 15 or 20 minutes. All right, so first, I'm sorry, I didn't go through the rest of the topics. Let me just breeze through those. So first, I'm going to talk a bit about FlexJobs, and then the side job market, companies and jobs currently hiring, avoiding job scams, using FlexJobs to find opportunities, and like I said, our Q&A session. So we will be covering quite a lot in the next hour. All right, so let's go ahead and talk briefly about FlexJobs since we're hosting today's event. The first thing you should know about FlexJobs is that we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. So we were founded in 2007, and we list pre-screened telecommuting, flexible schedule, full-time and part-time and freelance jobs. Essentially, all of the jobs on our site have to have some type of flexibility. We've helped over 2.7 million job seekers in their quest for a more flexible job, and we have over 47,000 researched and vetted companies on our site that has posted flexible work opportunities in the past. So it's a great way to research companies if you're trying to figure out whether a company that you're interested in offers flexible jobs and side jobs in particular. We have a really helpful resource there. And we're also a membership site, which I wanted to touch on just a little bit. It's the opposite of most job boards that you've probably dealt with. So for anybody who's unfamiliar with the way FlexJobs works, job seekers subscribe for a small fee, and with that fee, they receive access to all of the pre-screened job listings on our site. In addition, we offer things like skills testing, discounts on resume reviews, and other job search assistance, and a lot more. But we don't take money from employers to post their jobs, and in order to do that, which is very different from a regular job board, job seekers are our primary clients. So if you're looking for a job and you're a member of FlexJobs, you are our focus, not advertisers or employers. And we also hand screen every job and company on our site so that you don't have to, making sure that they're professional level jobs with flexible work options. Those are the two key things, that they are legitimate jobs and companies, that they're not ads or scams or bogus business opportunities or commission only jobs. We really list only a high quality database of jobs. And we're hoping that this makes people's job search faster, easier, and safer. So that's kind of our mission. And lastly, just one last thing about how FlexJobs works. We offer a satisfaction guarantee. So if you're not satisfied as a FlexJobs member, you can simply cancel your subscription and request a refund. It's really easy. We want people to feel that they have gotten a value from our service, and we hope that that's the case with all of our members, but we understand if that is not the case. So that's a little bit about FlexJobs for anybody who's unfamiliar. And my name is Bree Weiler-Reynolds. I'm the Senior Career Specialist at FlexJobs, and I've been working with job seekers and employers for over 13 years, both as a college career advisor, dealing with everyone from freshmen to alumni with decades of work experience. And now at FlexJobs, I help job seekers through webinars like this event, and also through articles and blog posts about job searching and advice and all sorts of good stuff. So I really like working with job seekers to help you find the types of jobs that fit your lives. And I am really happy to be here today. So let's go ahead and get started. Excuse me. First, I just wanted to do a quick poll so we can all kind of find out what we are here for today. So I'm going to put a little poll up on the screen, and you should be able to choose your answers here. The question is, why are you interested in side jobs? And what I'd like you to do is just choose whichever answer most closely matches your #1 reason for being interested in a side job. So I'd really just like to find out where people are, why they're searching for this sort of work, and maybe we can get to know each other a little bit more. So audience participation. I'll give people another couple minutes to, or a couple seconds, I should say, to fill out their answers. It looks like we have about 75% having voted. So a couple more seconds here as people chime in. And again, just choose the answer that most closely matches your #1 reason. So your #1 reason might not be perfectly listed here, but if there's something that is pretty close to it, definitely choose that one. All right, and it looks like we've got about 90% of people having voted. So I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. All right, it looks like about 43% are here to bring in additional income. 13% are here for retirement income, either before or during retirement. And I can put this up on the screen so you all can see it. 26% are here to change careers or explore career options, which is so interesting. There are a lot of people here who are considering different careers and looking at side jobs as a way to do that. That's so cool. And 13% to start a freelance business, which is also very cool. And then 5% to gain additional skills or experiences. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for participating. That gives me a better sense of the motivations of everybody here today and what you're looking for. And also, hopefully, it makes you feel like you are not necessarily alone. For whatever reason you're choosing a side job, there are other people choosing that a side job, looking for a side job for the same reasons that you are. And I think sometimes that can help for sure, especially job searching. Sometimes it can be a lonely activity. Okay, so let's talk about the market for side jobs. So first, I really want to get into what counts as a side job. And let me go ahead and hide the poll so you guys can see the slides again. All right. So what counts as a side job? Side jobs, I'm sure you've heard of them called side hustles or gigs, but they're not usually advertised using those terms. So they're typically labeled with one of the keywords that you see here on the screen. Some side jobs are casual side jobs that don't require too much experience or a certain education level to do the type of work that's being required. And then some are career-oriented, which means that you have to have advanced experience, maybe advanced degrees or specialized skill sets. But it's usually pretty obvious to tell the difference between a casual side job and a career-oriented side job based on the description that you're reading of that job. So that's something to keep in mind in the, as you're thinking about what side jobs would be best for you. Is, do you want something that's sort of casual, that's just to bring in some additional income, but that might not require any particular skills or experience? Or are you looking for something that's much more career oriented and might be requiring some higher level education and things like that? So just one thing to think about. But here are some of the more common keywords that employers use to describe these types of jobs. So you might see it listed as a part-time job, a temporary job, a freelance, holiday job, seasonal position. Holiday and seasonal are just a little bit different. Holidays being specifically during that post-Halloween, Thanksgiving into Christmas and New Year's type of position, and a seasonal position being any type of season, really. That could be the summer season, it could be a tax season, it could be the winter ski season. There's lots of different seasonal type positions. And then consulting, which is a very wide ranging term that means a lot of different things, but essentially applying your experience in a consultative way to help an organization with a specific problem that they're having. So just to get on the same page, those are some of the different keywords that you'll actually see out there to describe side jobs when they're being listed, rather than actually calling them side jobs. Employers tend not to do that. Okay, let's look at the side job market. So not all side jobs are freelance jobs, but I think the information on this slide, which is about who's freelancing in the US, is pretty interesting because it helps us understand how many people are working more than one job, which for a lot of folks on the call is the case. You might be working full-time already, you might be working part-time, you might be working multiple part-time jobs, but you're looking for something to go on the side of whatever it is that you're doing normally. It could also be that you're a student or that you're a stay-at-home parent, or you have some other sort of life circumstances that where you need this kind of job that can be done on the side of whatever you're doing most of the day. So about 35% of US workers have freelanced, and that's a pretty big number, but it's also expected to increase. You can see at the bottom, the prediction is that about 58% of the US workforce will have freelanced by 2027. And that's in some capacity. So it's not necessarily people who are doing ongoing freelance work. They are 100% freelancers. There's actually a number of different ways to make up this number of 35% of US workers have freelanced. So the 2 bullet points there with moonlighters and diversified workers. This really describes, I think, what most of you are here for today. And also it describes most of the people who participate in freelancing in the US. And I know these are US numbers, and we do have some folks here who are outside the US. So apologies, I don't have numbers for different countries on freelancing, but hopefully this gives you some idea of the prevalence in the US, and you could make comparisons to your own country. So moonlighters, those are people with full-time jobs who freelance on the side. That's about 27% of all freelancers. And then diversified workers is a fancy way of saying people who work a combination of part-time and freelance jobs, and that's about 18%. So between those 2 groups, we have a good chunk of the freelance market. The others are made up of people who are sole freelance business owners, and that's the only thing that they do, as well as people who complete kind of one-off side freelance projects occasionally. But the bulk, the majority of freelancers are either moonlighters or diversified workers, which really does describe a lot of the folks on the call here today, I think. Okay, so let's also talk about how many gigs do people have at once? Because I think some people, especially if you've never had a side job before, you've never worked more than one job at a time, you might be wondering if you can handle it. And as somebody who has done this on occasion throughout my career, I can understand that because it is a lot to take on, even if it is just a small side job. So here's how other people do it. About 51% of people have 2 to 3 gigs at a time, and that's on top of their full-time job or whatever they're doing for the majority of their days. 38% have 1 gig at a time, so that's the vast majority of people have somewhere between 1 and 3 gigs. And then a small percentage, about 11%, have 4 or more gigs. And that's a lot of gigs. So just start thinking about in your mind, what might you be able to handle? And I'm actually going to give you some ways to figure out what you could handle in a side job, how many hours, how many gigs, that type of thing in a couple more slides here. But just to give you an idea of what other people do so you can kind of compare your own ideas to what's really happening with other folks. Okay, so the other thing that I want to talk about is what is your goal for a side job? So we talked at the beginning, I did that little poll to ask why are you interested in a side job? And what I really want to talk about now is what's your goal? So your interests are very similar to your goals, but they're a little bit different in that when you're first seeking out side jobs, it's important to consider what your end result is going to look like. And so a couple different ideas here. There's bringing in additional income, but what does that mean? How much do you need? What's that income going to be for? Those are all questions you should consider. And these are a lot of the most common ideas or reasons that we see for bringing in additional income here. And then working during retirement is another one. And that also includes transitioning into retirement. So for people who aren't yet retired, but who are looking to get out of full-time work and maybe move into something or take on additional work in addition to their full-time work. Supplementing retirement income if you're already retired, and also staying active in retirement. Sometimes it's not about the income itself, it's really just about the activities, staying involved in your career or trying out some careers that you've always wanted to try through this sort of side work. But then there's also, of course, changing careers. We had a lot of folks who said that that was one of their reasons. Finding seasonal work, starting a freelance business, returning to work after a career break, and gaining additional experience or skills. So think about what your goal is. You might have a couple different goals, but keep that in mind as we continue on to the next slide, because we're going to talk about what side jobs are actually good for you, what would fit your needs and your goals. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, how much time do you have to devote to a side job? It seems like a simple question, but I think people jump into what they want to do first and not necessarily how much time they have to devote to that thing that they would like to do. So when you get very literal about it, you're thinking about how many hours per week do you have to devote to that job? Is it going to be something that's temporary or seasonal, or would you rather have ongoing work? Do you have a preference between those two things? Would you rather work remotely or on site? And the reason I put this under the time category is because with a remote side job, something that you can do from home, you might have more time to actually spend doing that job because you're not commuting back and forth to the side job. So that's something to consider as well. And then which fields and careers will you pursue? So you have your best skills and your work experiences to think about. Also the biggest needs in your field or others, because oftentimes that's where the side jobs lie, is where there are gaps, and they're trying to fill gaps of skills or education or something like that in the workforce. And also career change opportunities, opportunities where you might be able to transition from one career to another. And then what's the market like in those fields? This is the other thing that people maybe don't think about until they're already searching is, what is it, how many jobs are being listed? Is there a big need for this sort of side job or less of a need? What's the competition like? But then also thinking from the employer's perspective, what pain points do employers have? When you're reading through different job descriptions, what problems are they asking you to solve? What issues are they saying this side job is going to need to fill? And really just getting a hold of the market as a whole and what it looks like. And so what I want you to do is think about these questions and your answers to these questions as we go through the next section and look at some jobs and companies that are hiring now. All right, so the first thing that I wanted to touch on is the top career fields for part-time and freelance jobs. This list is out of 55 total career fields found on FlexJobs. So if you don't see anything of interest, there are definitely more options out there. These 14 tend to have the highest numbers of part-time and freelance jobs, but it's not the end-all be-all of the number of jobs listed in, for part-time and freelance work. There are definitely other options out there as well. So it might just do a little bit of research if your particular interests or career fields aren't listed here. But the goal with this information is to really just get your mind moving and to start thinking about which skills and interests you have that might match the career fields offering this type of work. So as you can see, it is pretty wide ranging. There are a lot of different career fields requiring a lot of different levels of skill and education and experience. So it's just important to kind of get your mind moving and thinking about what you might like to do. I also wanted to touch on the most common job titles for part-time and freelance jobs. And again, the goal with this is to look at these job titles and get thinking about where your skills and interests might fit the side job market. So if these are common job titles out there, then where might your skills and interests and experiences fit into these job titles? Again, it's not an end-all, be-all sort of list. There are many job titles out there, but these are the ones that we see on a very regular basis being listed with part-time schedules, freelance opportunities, temporary projects, seasonal work, all of that sort of stuff. Okay, I also wanted to touch on some companies hiring for side jobs. These are actually companies that have just been hiring within the last week. I took a look at our listings and I just wanted to put out some bigger, well-known names because I think a lot of times people don't realize how many companies they already have heard of or know about offer this type of work. I wanted to point out the well-known companies, but we're also going to take a look at a slide with some perhaps lesser-known companies just so you can get a sense of the smaller companies or the less well-known ones that are offering this type of work too. These companies all have current jobs listed that fit the definition of a side job. And as I mentioned before, their side jobs range from casual to career-oriented. So that's something important to pay attention to when you're reading job descriptions or you're talking to networking contacts or potential employers about working for them on the side, is to really gauge whether it's a casual position or a career-oriented position. So depending on, the requirements of the position, what the education level, the experience level, the commitment that you have to put in, if it's a set schedule or a set your own hours type of situation, that's kind of all the differences lie there between casual and career-oriented. But well-known companies are only the tip of the iceberg, really, when it comes to hiring people for part-time and freelance positions. So I also wanted to touch on, like I said, some of the maybe less well-known, although there are some pretty good-sized names on this next slide too. These are some of the most popular career fields for side jobs: online education, virtual assistant and customer service, translation and transcription, and internet search evaluation. And these are popular based on what job seekers tell us they're looking for. So some of these might match what you're looking for as well, and we wanted to highlight some of the companies that are hiring for those types of jobs. These companies hire for a lot of part-time or freelance work in these particular career fields. And again, you have to really keep in mind that these jobs range from that casual side to career-oriented. So think about what you're interested in, look at the job descriptions carefully, read each job description, and just make sure that it matches what you are ready and willing to commit for that side job. Because some employers really, they might consider their jobs to be part-time with a flexible schedule, but they don't like the connotation that the keywords or key phrase side job actually gives, which is, it sounds a little bit more casual. They want to make sure people are really committed and interested in their company and in that job. So it's important when you're talking to employers as well, not to just pass this off as, oh, I'm just looking for a little something on the side, but to be really serious about the experience that you offer, the education and the skills that you have, and also your commitment to this job, even if it is a side job, which has that feeling of being a little more casual, but that you really are committed to it and it's something that you're going to see through and do a good job on. All right, so we've looked at some of the legitimate companies and legitimate job titles and things like that that are hiring, but the next thing I wanted to talk about is avoiding job scams, because that is an unfortunate part of the side job market and the remote job market that is really important, we think, to educate job seekers on. So some scam information about the side job market. Quite a lot of scams exist in the work from home job market in particular. So if you're looking for a remote side job, you might see these things even more so than if you're looking for an on-site side job. Scammers know that people want or need to make extra money on the side, especially when you're looking for a side job. That is, as we saw with our poll, is the #1 reason that people are looking for this sort of job. So what they do is list fake job openings to try to lure people in. It's estimated that there are about 60 to 70 scam remote jobs for every one legitimate job listing. So it's really important to know how to spot these scams and keep yourself safe, which is what we want to help you do today. So the first thing I want to talk about is common side jobs. These are ones that you will see probably on a fairly regular basis. If you're searching on the wider web on different job search sites, you won't see these things on FlexJobs only because we pre-screen every single listing before it actually gets posted to our job seekers. So these are all of the sorts of things that we are screening for and removing before they get published. But things like pyramid sales schemes, which have been around since probably when the pyramids were being built. It seems like one of those age-old schemes that people get into. Envelope stuffing, money wire transfers, anything that is asking you to move money around, either through a service like Western Union or even your own bank account. Rebate and forms processing, package processing, craft and product assembly, and copycat companies, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail on the next slide, because that is an important one and it's a little bit more sophisticated than some of these other ones. So it's one we wanted to be particularly careful to explain. All right, so how to actually avoid side jobs. There are a bunch of different things you can do. I'm sorry, not side jobs. We don't want to avoid side jobs. We want to avoid job scams to find real side jobs. Okay, so some warning signs of scams. So these are all individually just warning signs. Each one of these is not necessarily a guarantee that you're looking at a scam, but these are things that should make you think in the back of your mind, ooh, proceed with caution. You need to do more research before you accept a job or go further in the process. So these are just some red flags that should go up in your mind while you're out there searching. If there's no company name or there's a generic email address on a job listing that you're looking at, that's a warning sign. Usually a company will offer their company name. They will have an official company email address. So if you're dealing with somebody with a Gmail or a Yahoo, it's just a warning sign to pay more attention and do some research. And then having a vague or no job description at all. So a vague job description where it talks an awful lot about how much money you'll be making or how little time you have to invest in this job or how easy the job is, but it doesn't really tell you a lot about the actual job and what you'll be doing. That's a big red flag. If they conduct interviews over Instant Messenger or IM, that's another red flag. I'll give you an idea of how many legitimate companies do conduct their interviews over Instant Messenger. So we have about 47,000 companies on our site that we've researched and vetted, and I have looked at quite a lot of them over the years, and about a handful of them, I think I can name 5 of them, that do Instant Messenger interviews that are legitimate companies. So the vast majority of legitimate companies do not do Instant Messenger interviews. So if you're asked to do that, that can be a red flag and just a sign that you need to do some more research. Also, getting an immediate job offer, and particularly when they are urging you to accept it immediately. They're not giving you time to think about it. They don't want you to think rationally about it. They want you to act immediately and give them your personal information. And they want to just get it all squared away so they can have your info and complete their scam, essentially. And then the last one is copycat companies. So this is one I mentioned before. This is where a scammer essentially takes the branding and the logo and even the website copy and all sorts of information about a real well-known company and creates a fake website. So you can see there's a couple examples here. Companies that have had this happen to them include GE, Google, Apple, CNBC. So these are pretty well-known companies. I mean, these are big names that people would think, oh, I would love to work for that company. And they see a job and they think, this sounds great. Well, it could be a scam website that's just set up to look like one of these real companies. So these are just examples of how different the web address or the URL could be. It doesn't have to be all that different to be fake. So the top one is an example of a fake one. It's not a true scam. So I'm not going to give you a scam website to go check out, but just as an example of the small changes that these scam companies make. You've got gecareers.com, and then the real website would be ge.com/careers. So it's a very small difference, but it can make a huge difference in terms of whether you're looking at a legitimate site or a fake site. So it's important to do your research. I'll show you a couple ways to identify scams on the next slide. And then we will get back into a couple more job search tips. But the biggest thing I wanted to say here is really to trust your instincts. So you've got all these different warning signs popping up. Usually when I talk to people who have been scammed by a remote job scam or something like that, they'll say that there was some point in the process where they felt like something wasn't right. They thought something was a bit off. The employer wasn't acting in a way that they expected, or something was just off. And they had that instinct to know that something was off and to feel a little bit strange about the situation, but they kept going with it anyway. They ignored that instinct and they kept going. And they wound up getting scammed. And so what I can say to you is, for sure, trust your instincts. If something doesn't seem right or something seems too good to be true, it will not hurt you to pause and do some more research. There's no harm in taking a few extra minutes, doing some simple Google searches to do some research and find out if what you're looking at is a scam or potentially a real job. And I want to talk about some search methods to actually do that, because there are a couple different ways. The first method is, if you're looking at any company or job and you want to know if they are legitimate or not, the first thing you can do is open a private or incognito browser. That's the best way to do this because there's no search history. It's kind of a clean search for you to do. And you can do that with Chrome and Firefox and I believe Safari. And so it should be something that's available to you for whatever browser you're using. And then search for the company's name and or the job title. So if you have the company name or the job title, or do both, and the keyword scam. It's a really simple search, but it will let you know if what you're looking at is a scam, because if someone's been scammed by that fake company or by a job title with that same, or a job with that same job title, they're probably going to say something about it online. Somebody is going to report this online. So you might find it on different forums. You might find forums coming up. You might find Better Business Bureau notifications, things like that. But just to give you a heads up, other people who've been scammed will oftentimes complain about that online, understandably so. The next method is for well-known companies. You can do that same thing, open up a private or incognito browser, search for the company name and the word careers, and then find the real careers page once it pops up in your search results, and compare the URL with the fake, potentially fake URL that you might be looking at. So if you think you're on a well-known company's career page and you're not sure, try doing a fresh browser search to find their careers page and compare those two URLs to see if they match. So just a couple, like I said, it only takes a couple minutes. You'll keep yourself safe. And if you feel that instinct that something's not right, just do a couple quick searches before you proceed. And worst case scenario, walk away and find a different job to go after, because there are other side jobs out there and it's better to keep yourself safe. Better safe than sorry, as all of our mothers have probably told us at one point or another. Okay, so we just have a couple more things to go over before we get into the audience Q&A, and I see some questions coming in already. Thank you very much. The one thing I want to touch on is how can FlexJobs help you find your best side jobs, so side jobs that are actually going to be a good fit for you. We offer some pretty good search results, or search options, I should say. And you can search by all these different things. I'm just going to highlight some of the categories here. If you, and this is for both FlexJobs members and non-members, can go to this advanced search page, and it's flexjobs.com/searchoptions.aspx. And this is where you can really get nitty-gritty about your search on FlexJobs. If you're a FlexJobs member, when you run a search through this site, you're going to find all the different job listings, all of the detailed descriptions, the company name, the contact information, and the information on how to apply if they have, very specific instructions or a website that they want you to go to or anything like that. You'll find all of the information. If you're not yet a FlexJobs member, you'll still see every single job listing. It'll just be a short description so you can get a sense of what that job is about. The company name and the contact information won't be available. So that's the big difference there. But you can at least get an idea of if there's anything on FlexJobs that might match what you're looking for. Okay, so I would recommend searching a couple different ways. You can always, of course, use keywords to look for job titles or skills or things like that that you might like to use in the job. You can also search by location. So you can put in your US location, or you can choose a different country. Under the international section is also where you would choose an anywhere job, which is a job that can be done from anywhere. It has no location requirement at all. And then job types and work schedule are the two sections that if you're looking for a side job, these will get you to those specific results that are employee or freelance jobs. And if you're looking for one or the other, of course, you can just narrow that down to just employee or just freelance. But I'd put in both if you don't really have a preference and you're open to either. And then work schedule, of course, part-time and seasonal. There's also temporary, long-term, short-term. There's a lot of different scheduling options there. So you can pick the type of work schedule that is most fitting with what you're looking for. And then you can choose career categories, your career level. I know before this call, we actually had a few people email who are at or near retirement, and they're wondering if they can find kind of a side job using all of this, skills and experience that they've built up throughout their careers. And so I'd recommend going to the career level section and choosing that, manager or senior level manager, depending on how far you've gotten in your career already, to get some of those higher level positions listed there. And then telecommuting level. And I want to do a little bit more detailed information into the telecommuting level options, because I think most of the time when we survey people and we ask them what type of flexibility they're looking for, they will say they want to work from home. It's the number one thing. And so we've created this way where you can actually set your level of telecommuting. So if you only wanted to work from home 100% of the time, you never wanted to set foot in an office, that's what you could choose here, 100% telecommuting. And so that would bring back only jobs that match your other search criteria that would allow you to be 100% from home. And then you can see we have mostly telecommuting, some telecommuting, and the option for telecommuting to kind of, go the wide range of telecommuting options out there. Employers will often allow people to be at home some of the time and in the office other parts of the time. So it's important to kind of think about what would your ideal telecommuting scenario be, or what different types of telecommuting would you prefer? All right. The next thing I wanted to talk about was, let's just click on over here, branding yourself for hire. And this includes information for whether you're on FlexJobs or any other site where you might be able to brand yourself as somebody who is available and seeking a side work, side gig, side hustle, side job, whatever you'd like to call it. So when you're on LinkedIn, what we wanted to point out was that if you can, include that you're a freelancer or that you're open to side opportunities somewhere on your LinkedIn profile. Usually the summary section is the best area to do that because it's very heavily weighted looking for work specifically for when it comes up in search results. The search results are really weighted towards the keywords that you use in that summary section. Excuse me, I just had a little cough that I needed to take care of. And then online portfolio or a simple website. This is something that you could create for yourself as somebody who's putting themselves out there as able and willing to do side work. You could use about.me, which is a very simple site. It's free to use, and it creates just a really nice one-page portfolio where you can put in some of your previous work history, the skills and experience that you have, and just put yourself out there as open for side jobs. And then there's WordPress is another site where there are free options. I think there are some options that you could pay for. Squarespace is another one. I believe you have to pay for that one. So depending on the level, how far into a side job you want to get, you could, opt for these different options. And then you could just use your social media profiles as well. So things like Twitter or Facebook, LinkedIn, of course, if you want to count that under social media, Pinterest, Instagram, all those different sites, you could choose, okay, your Twitter account is going to be strictly for your professional life and for side jobs, or your Instagram account is going to be that way. And then obviously you want to put this on your resume. So you actually want to make a side gig specific resume to showcase your most related skills and experience. So if you're going for side jobs, you want to make sure you're tailoring your resume to be for the particular jobs that you are finding, and not just a general resume that you would send for any type of full-time job in your career field. And then for your FlexJobs profile, you want to create a FlexJobs resume profile specifically for your side job search. So if you're using FlexJobs, you can create multiple resume profiles, which can be very handy. And you want to dedicate at least one of those, if not more than one, to your side jobs. And you can get very specific about the type of work that you're looking for in each of those profiles. And then one thing I wanted to show you, just for anybody who is on FlexJobs, an example of a great FlexJobs profile. Obviously, I have anonymized this one just a little bit. That's not Karen's real smile. But I did want to point out she's done a really good job of filling out her profile. She has a lot of really good keywords in her experience section, her summary of qualifications. It's just a really good overview of what she has to offer. And also in the job search details, she's chosen the different job types and schedules she's interested, levels of telecommuting, and her start and end dates and all of that sort of stuff. So she's really filled this out to the max, and it's a good example of how to put together a profile that has a lot of good information for employers to see. So just some free resources that we offer on FlexJobs, whether you're a member or not. I want you to feel free to take advantage of these. Really the biggest thing I wanted to touch on is the FlexJobs blog. So this is something that I spent a lot of time on in my over 7 years at FlexJobs. Specifically for side jobs, we have a campaign that we did called 100 Days on Freelance Jobs, where it was an article each day on the freelance job market. And it was everything from how to decide if you want to freelance all the way to setting your rates, finding clients, charging and billing clients, making sure you collect on those bills, traits of successful freelancers, and even stories from previous FlexJobs members who have been successfully freelancing. And it's really good information. So that's one thing to look up on the blog. And then also we do have over 200 articles on freelance jobs on the blog, and over 150 articles on part-time jobs. So there's a lot of really good information that gets a lot more detailed. We talk about specific career fields and what are out there for part-time and freelance work. We talk, if you do some searching on the blog for side job or side hustle, there's also a lot of information out there with those terms. So lots of really good information. All right, so we are almost to the Q&A, and as I promised, I think we have, just over 15 minutes left for audience Q&A. There's some action steps to take. The first is to, this is kind of wrapping up everything that we've talked about today, so hopefully this gives you a good overview. And remember, this has all been recorded and will be available to you tomorrow. So I know I've thrown a lot of information out there already. If there are things that you didn't remember or you'd like to review more, we'll be sending you a link to that recording tomorrow. So the first thing I want to remind everybody to do is to define your goal. So why do you want a side job? What will it look like once you have a side job? What goal are you trying to meet by getting this side job? And then deciding on and researching your niche or your focus. And so that has to do with those questions we asked with how much time do you have? How many hours per week do you have to devote? Do you want to work temporarily or seasonally, or would you rather have ongoing work? Do you want to work remotely or on site? And all of those sorts of questions to really narrow down on what is your particular niche and your focus, what career field or change in career fields would you like to pursue? And then what's the market like in those fields? So you've got a little bit of homework to do for sure after this. And then also updating your personal brand. That's a big piece of it. Getting yourself out there on sites like about.me and of course LinkedIn and your FlexJobs profile if you're a member of FlexJobs. And then searching for open jobs, contacting potential clients. You also not just want to be searching on job boards. Of course, I think FlexJobs is a fantastic resource, but also thinking about previous employers who might be able to take you on for some side projects, thinking about where their pain points were when you were working for them. And if you've left on good terms and you still have contacts with those folks, maybe reaching out to them and say that you are, in the market as a freelancer and you'd love to help them with whatever projects they have. And just thinking about other employers that you have been interested in. Maybe you've applied for full-time jobs with those employers in the past. Perhaps they have some side work that could be open for you. And then also just your, potential networking contacts that you already have, kind of going through people that you already know, employers that you already have some connection with, and looking at those folks as well. And then on FlexJobs numbers, as I said, you can see the full descriptions of each job, the company names, and the contact information. If you're not a member, you'll still see every single listing, so you'll know what's available. It'll just have basic information, so you won't get the full details. But it should give you enough information to know whether it's the type of job that you might like to pursue. All right. I'm going to open it up for questions, and I'm just going to take a quick pause to have a sip of water, and then I will go ahead and start answering some of the many questions that we have here today. Okay, thank you for your patience. I got my voice back a little bit here. So one of the questions I have up here is from Ellen, and it says, should I pursue seasonal jobs to get something and make money while looking for more long-term jobs? I think it really depends on your situation, but it's not a bad idea, I will say that. So it depends on what your ultimate goals are and how quickly you need to make money with a side job. Seasonal jobs are hiring right now for sure, and some of them do make good side jobs. I will say that seasonal jobs tend to come with pretty strict schedules. So they need you for a certain number of hours each week. They definitely need you to work through the holidays. So that means Black Friday and all the weekends leading up to, the Christmas season and things like that. But they can also be a good way to kind of gain skills and experience, have something to put on your resume, and kind of push you forward as you look for something more long-term. So it's not a bad idea, but I would go back to kind of your goals and how much time you have to devote to a side job before you jump in. But they usually give you a pretty good idea of what you're getting yourself into when you sign up for a seasonal job. There's a lot of training, so you'll understand pretty quickly, how much time you need to devote to something like that. Okay, let's see. The next question, scrolling down the list here. Okay, so one question is, how long does it usually take a FlexJobs member to find a 100% telecommuting job? This was from Gail. This is a really tricky question to answer. And it has so much to do with the particular career field that you're pursuing and how competitive that field is. And even with 100% telecommuting jobs where you never actually set foot in an office, they may require you to be in a certain location. So it also depends on that. They might need you in a certain location because they need you in a state where they're already set up to process employment taxes. They need you to be in a certain time zone to handle clients that are in that time zone. There's a number of different reasons that they might want you in a particular location. So location still factors into how long it takes. That said, job searching with flexible jobs is very similar to the traditional job market. So you typically hear career advisors and career experts say that it takes maybe 3 to 6 months on average to find a job, but that's a big average. That really depends on your career field, your career level, the competitiveness in your job market, and things like that. So unfortunately, it's not something easy to answer. I just wanted to be totally honest with that one. Okay. Are there any particular strategies for finding international anywhere type jobs? Good question, David. Thank you. So this is, if you're on FlexJobs, we do have that option on the advanced search page to search for anywhere jobs if you look under international. So even if you're not going to use FlexJobs, which I obviously would recommend you do, but if you go on the advanced search page and search for those anywhere jobs, you can get a sense of the types of jobs that are available to be done from anywhere. It is a pretty specific group. I think it's only about 5% of all telecommuting jobs are anywhere jobs that have no location requirement. And so that's something to keep in mind. It is a pretty small group, but that'll give you an idea of what some of the jobs are that could be done from anywhere. But really, it's so tricky because on a lot of company job sites and other job boards, they haven't quite gotten up to the level of being able to parse out remote jobs in that way, where they would say, oh, this job is location specific, this job can be done from anywhere. It really might say just something like remote, and then you have to kind of go through the process and talk to the company to find out what they mean by that. So it just pay attention to as many details as you can get, and try doing some research on FlexJobs too, because I think, as far as I know, that's the only, quote unquote, anywhere job search option. Oh, another good option is Remote Co. It's remote.co. That's one of our sister sites that focuses exclusively on remote work. And on that site, you can also find some listings that are kind of remote anywhere jobs. All right, let's see what the next question is. I know we have a lot of questions coming in. I'm trying to choose ones that are applicable to the widest group of people here. Are there any volunteer opportunities on FlexJobs? Just asking, since someone else mentioned it's a good option for career change. Yes, Jesus, it is a good option for career change for sure, to do some volunteer work to build up your skills in a different industry or a different career. We do have some volunteer positions on FlexJobs. One company that comes to mind in particular is an organization called Taproot. It's Taproot, and they offer very high level volunteer opportunities. It's a really nice organization. They're basically looking for people with a lot of skills and experience who can volunteer their time and their experience to help nonprofit organizations with those particular skills and experience. So if you have, management experience or software development experience or whatever it might be, they look for people who have pretty good amount of experience. But if you're changing career fields and you have transferable skills, that would also be a good option for you. But yes, there are some volunteer opportunities on FlexJobs. All right, let's see. Oh, can you discuss the importance of skills tests for editor, writer, or interpreter? Scoring is confusing, 2 different percentages given. What would be the target score before putting up the scores? Yes, so Anne's asking about the skills testing that we have on FlexJobs. And for the writing positions, editing positions, interpreting, where you really do need kind of specific skills, there are a lot of skills tests, and employers oftentimes require those skills tests be taken, and they're all free for FlexJobs members to take, which is really nice. So essentially, I believe the score is not shown to employers unless you get 70% or above, and you can also control from your FlexJobs account, even if you get above a 70% but you're not satisfied, like let's say you get a 73 and you really just don't feel like employers should see that score, you can manually shut it off as well. So if you get that score, you can manually shut it off. I'm not sure about the 2 percentages. That's something you would want to ask our awesome client services team about. They are much more knowledgeable with the skills test specifically than I am. But I do know that you can turn things off from your account if you really don't want that score to be shown. Hopefully that's at least a little bit helpful. And the client services team at FlexJobs is quite good and helpful. Like I said at the beginning, we are a team of human beings. We are actually a group of people who like to do this sort of work. Okay, so let's see. If you are over-experienced or qualified but ready to do support work that does not need a higher level, how do you brand yourself? I think in this case, if you are feeling overqualified and experienced and you're really just looking for some side work that is quote unquote at a lower level or just requires less experience or less education or whatever it might be, I would say really just focusing on the skills that you offer. So on your resume, on your LinkedIn or your FlexJobs profile, wherever you're looking from, really focusing on the skills that that job requires and not so much your, however many years of experience you have at a particular company or type of work, and how much advanced degrees you have. I think mainly you're looking for the skills, and you're really looking to, on your resume or profiles, to show employers that you are really interested in this type of work, and that you understand that your qualifications technically put you potentially over, but you are really committed to this. You enjoy using these specific skills that you have, and that you kind of understand the situation you're putting yourself in, and you're okay with it, and you really want to do this type of work. So really showing that you're kind of committed to it, you're interested in it, regardless of the requirements and things like that, that you might be overqualified, but you are truly interested in this type of work. You're not somebody who's going to work for a little bit and then kind of scatter to the wind. So I think that's one of the things that employers can be a little bit nervous about, is if somebody's overqualified, they might take the job, get bored really quick, and then leave, and then they're stuck trying to find somebody else. The web address for the sister site, that was Remote Co. It's remote, REMOTE.co. That should get you there. That's our FlexJobs sister site specifically for remote work. Oh, and Jen's got it in the message box for the entire audience, so you guys can copy and paste it from there. All right, it looks like we have time for a couple more questions here, a few more. Can you list some sites that offer free or low-cost training if we want to branch out into different fields? For example, if we don't know anything about transcription, what sites do you know that help us train to become competent to apply for jobs in that field? Okay, great question, because there are a lot of sites out there that offer you training at low or no cost. And really the low-cost ones are so high quality, they're really good. One of the ones that we have, and actually, Jen, I might ask for your help in naming some of the ones that we're partners with, because I know FlexJobs has partnerships with a number of training sites like this, where you could get a discount. If you're a FlexJobs member, you get a discount with that particular training site. So I know Jen works pretty closely with those folks, and she can give us a list. But ones that come to mind, FlexJobs has partnered with lynda.com. It's L-Y-N-D-A, like the name Linda, but with a Y. Instead of that first I. And they offer really comprehensive training on all sorts of different topics, everything you can possibly imagine for different career fields. We also actually completed 2 courses with them, created 2 courses, I should say, one on how to find remote jobs and one on surviving and overcoming a layoff. So we've got some good courses on lynda.com. They also do a partnership with LinkedIn. So if you're a LinkedIn Pro member, I believe you have access to at least some of lynda.com's courses for free, I want to say, so double check that if you're a LinkedIn Pro member. Also sites like General Assembly is one, I believe, for mostly tech-based information or skills and training. And then Skill Crush is another one. Skillshare, there's a couple different skill names in there, Skill Crush and Skillshare. Those are 2 other ones that I would recommend as well. But yeah, there are a lot of really good training sites out there. Transcription specifically, I don't know of any off the top of my head, but the sites that I've named may have something related to transcription. So I would check those out just to see. All right, so it looks like I'm going to try to do 2 more questions here before we go ahead and close up. Oh, and we've got actually a couple people weighing in here, some other learning sites that offer free and or for fee courses, Coursera and FutureLearn. Those are two of them. Thank you very much for that recommendation. I love audience participation. It's always helpful. It is a group effort sometimes in finding a job. Okay. Any other useful webinars that will be available in the near future? So let's see. We don't have any scheduled that are being hosted by FlexJobs, but what I will say is if you go to the FlexJobs blog and go to the job resources category, there's a whole section on webinars and videos. And that is basically a library of all of the webinars that we've done and the recorded videos from those webinars. So you can actually go back on your own time. It's kind of like free training in a way, but you could go back on your own time. It's open to the public to get to that particular blog section, and you could watch a lot of the webinars that we've done recently. We did one not too long ago, just a few weeks ago, with 4 awesome companies hiring for flexible and remote jobs. I think it was Dell, United Health Group, Sutherland, and Kaplan, I believe. And it was a great webinar just talking about what the companies look for, what skills they look for, how to apply to those jobs, all that sort of stuff. And so I would definitely recommend checking out some of our previous webinars, and that's also where we post future webinars that you can sign up for. I'd also recommend signing up for the FlexJobs newsletter because we advertise all of our webinars in the newsletter as well. All right, and I'm going to look for one more question in here that might be good for the whole group. Scrolling here. Oh, actually, you know what? Instead of a question, I have a couple other people weighing in on free courses online. edx.org is another one. edx, like those 3 letters, edx.org is another website that is offering some free training. Oh, and a question for Remote Co. No, Remote Co is not a subscription site, so you don't have to subscribe to use that one. And actually for Remote Co, for anybody who's interested in figuring out exactly how companies hire for remote jobs in particular, we have a great Q&A series at Remote Co that has, I think, over 130 remote company leaders weighing in on what they do when they're hiring for remote jobs. What do they ask? How do they do their interviews? Is it Skype? Is it phone interviews? All that sort of stuff. So that's definitely a good resource when if you're looking for remote specific side jobs. All right, and it looks like we are just almost to the top of the hour, so I am going to go ahead and wrap up the Q&A session. I know there were a lot of questions in here that we didn't have a chance to answer, but hopefully you did walk away from this webinar, or are walking away from the webinar with some really useful information. So right now, there's just going to be a quick survey that pops up after the webinar is completed. I would really appreciate it if you took, I think it'd probably take you 10 or 15 seconds to complete the survey. It really helps us plan for future webinars and make these events better each time we do them. And then tomorrow you'll receive an email with that survey. So if you don't have a chance right now, you can also fill that out on the email tomorrow, and a link to view the recording of this webinar. You can also find upcoming webinars, as I said, on the FlexJobs blog, and then go to FlexJobs resources, and then job search webinars and videos to find all of our previous webinars and videos, video recordings to watch there. And that's about it for today, I think. So thank you all so much for coming. This was the first time that we've done a topic like this, and we were so happy to see the overwhelming number of people who are interested in it. So we'll probably be doing more things like this in the future. But thank you very much on behalf of the whole FlexJobs team. We're very excited to have you all here today, and we wish you the best of luck in finding a side job. Thanks, everybody.